commencing the next session. So after lunch, it's a difficult session, aisa kaha jata hai. But I think we are equally zealful and zestful. So everybody, are you with me? Oh. These people, this side, they I think are with me. This side probably are still with the deserts. They're like, yo, thoda sa ice cream aur le lete the. Are you all with me? Come on, I can't hear you. Are with me? Okay, come on. Thank you for showing some amount of great enthusiasm. But well, let's not this be a barrier between the knowledge and the platform that we have created here. So let's get going. We have a very expert speaker joining us today. He is Peeyush Rai, founder and CEO of Skillmine. And I think, can we have a huge round of applause for him? Everybody.
Okay, so I had a very heavy lunch, so I'm feeling sleepy, but I'll try to do my best. So we are going to talk about underwriting a little bit here. We've covered some very interesting topics in the morning around claims and technologies and stuff like that. I think we have a session on underwriting again tomorrow, a panel session, so I'm looking forward to it. But I'm going to talk about how the new generation of agentic AI can be used in a process like underwriting and potentially other areas of insurance like claims and stuff like that. So we are building these technologies. I'm the founder and CEO of weav.ai. Actually, Skillmine is our partner, and I'll introduce them. Anant is there. So we have partnered with Skillmine to bring our solutions to the Indian market. And we will be working with them to help our customers here. So I'm going to get into it right away. So I think what our belief is that if you look at the last 10 years of innovation in insurance, US market and global markets, I think the core focus has been more on digitization, right? Capturing information about the premiums, the policies, and claims, et cetera, and those systems were built. And a lot of the decision-making or decisioning and analysis was still, rudimentary, for complex processes like underwriting, it was still very manual. We also believe in the next 10 years, it's going to shift dramatically to more value on the, decisioning and analysis of the information that you already have and you're continuing to collect. So the information collection phase is sort of now past, and now we are going to go into analysis and intelligence phase. And this is sort of obviously enabled by technologies like the new AI, that is coming up, which opens up a lot more capabilities and use cases that were not really possible before. Stuff that you heard about today, voice agents or generative AI. Those are all recent technologies. They're still evolving. So by no means they are mature. They're still going to continue to evolve. But that's what we will see in the next 10 years or so. So we are at a great place to sort of embrace those technologies, learn, and evolve our systems to start leveraging them. Quick introduction to the company. We are a startup. We're based out of US, California. Started about 4 years ago. And we are focusing, our initial products are focused on general insurance, commercial lines of business, because we started there because that's the complex part of the business where you are insuring multiple assets of a business, multiple people within a business. So that's where our initial product line is. And as I said, for the Indian market, we are entering into the market in partnership with Skillmine. They are one of the sponsors here. And we will bring those products to this market as well. Our product is basically an agentic AI platform. There's a funny story I'll narrate before we go forward. So I was at the InsurTech Connect, which is, you may have heard, it's one of the largest insurance conferences in the world that happens in Vegas. And I went, we had a booth and we were sponsors last year. And when I went there, I saw this big banner saying Agent Tech. And I was like, so we have been building AI agents for a while. And I said, wow, this is already a category in this conference. And when I went there, I realized that it is not agentic AI, but software for insurance agents. So it was, a little bit, surprising for me that, so there's this concept of agents in insurance, and then now we have these agentic AI that are helping us perform some of those insurance functions. So it's, that was a good sort of incident there. How the agentic AI is going to help insurance is, this diagram sort of represents that, right? And when we talk about agentic AI, AI agents are a part of a larger ecosystem of software that will be driving the insurance systems and processes, right? So it is not that agents are there and they will do everything. That's not how they work. For those of you who have used agents, they can do some tasks of analysis with unstructured data and complex decision making, but they have limitations. So you need an ecosystem of other software around it. You need workflow, for example, which continues to be there. You, of course, need a semantic search, some of the other generative AI technologies, and knowledge graphs, which help bring the context of a domain like insurance or underwriting or claims into the decision-making process. So you need all those components, right? And you also need to augment your decision-making with third-party data, which is on this side. So, there could be credit scores or health records of employees or people, right? I think we saw one of the sponsors here, they have the the vehicle records and so on. So all that third-party data goes into it. But also the other thing that goes into the decision-making is your own underwriting guidelines or your claims adjustment guidelines, which your adjusters and underwriters use today to make decisions, right? So all these things go into the decision-making, and that's where I think without a technology like generative AI and AI agents, that is a very complex process to manage. It can take sometimes weeks or months to ensure a big business, for example, in the commercial lines. And that's the power of the newer technologies, that now we can bring that together, and these AI agents can perform most of those tasks and analysis for you, right? And there are, of course, limitations which we'll talk about, but that's what the power is, right? And of course, no system will be running independently, so the ability to integrate with existing systems that you may have developed or you already have in place, that would be important as well. So this is sort of the new ecosystem, very high-level diagram, but it sort of shows how the agentic systems would work in the coming days and years, right? I'll skip this one. This is more of for technology architecture. But yeah, let me come here to this diagram a little bit. This sort of exemplifies underwriting process itself, right? And again, our initial focus is more commercial. So I'm going to talk about some of the commercial underwriting. May not be exactly applicable to life or health, but similar concepts would exist for life and health as well, right? So what this diagram shows is the various stages of your underwriting process analysis, right? So when you get a new application for insurance from a commercial company, you basically would want to do a data quality analysis, because if you don't have the right data in the right quality, then your analysis and the decisions will not be accurate, and you'll end up either overcharging the premium or undercharging. Both are not good. You can also get conflicting information, right? So being able to check whether the information that you're receiving, if you're getting conflicting information, which is what's the source of truth? What's the right information? So that kind of situation also happens there, right? And then you go into exposure and loss. I think you guys may be obviously familiar with that. Loss is to look at your past claims and history and the types of claims and nature of claims. So there's a whole analysis that needs to be done, and we'll drill down a little bit on that. On the exposure side, you want to know what are the risks associated with, let's say, if your office buildings are getting insured, or your people are getting insured, or your vehicles of your company are getting insured. What are the kind of risks that exist with the existing assets that you have? So that's the exposure analysis, right? And then you apply your underwriting guidelines, your best practices to that analysis, augment that with third-party data, and then you get an underwriting decision. So that's the architecture sort of we are following in our solution. But I think in general, with AI-augmented, agent-augmented decision-making, this is how we see the world, where you can bring all the right data into the decision-making, and the agent will perform the analysis. There's a very important aspect here, which is human in the loop. You may have heard of that term a lot, which is very, very important for using AI systems today, right? For as much marketing as we hear from these bigger companies saying that agents are going to take over the world and everybody's going to lose their jobs, we are not there yet, and we won't be there for many, many years. So human-augmented decision-making is what is going to be realistic, because these AI models that we have today are very, very nascent, and they're like a 3-year-old child. So that's what their intelligence is really, right? So as an example, right, this is the picture that you can see here, an agentic underwriting system could look like, right? Some of our customers have implemented this kind of a process where you get the input submission coming in, and then you have a bunch of these agents that are deployed, and they look at the data coming in, right? You start with the, classifying the company or the type of business first, data enrichment, resolve the conflicts, do the exposure analysis, and then a loss analysis, and you generate the underwriting recommendation. Now, the interesting thing is after the agents do this work, you can have another agent check the work of these agents. So this is a good pattern in agentic AI, where you can ask one agent to correct or evaluate the other agent's work. And it works quite well. Because the other agent, the compliance agent, can come and look at your underwriting guidelines or your regulations, and it can check the results that are being recommended by the worker agents, right? And then you have the final compliance report and so on. So this is a very interesting pattern. It looks simple in this diagram, but it is not. Making the generative AI work to the enterprise level accuracy is very, very hard. Because, right, it's still an evolving technology. Taking a PDF and summarizing it or extracting some information from it, that part is easy. But when you're trying to make an underwriting decision with so much data and so much complexity, it is not easy. It takes a lot of effort and iterations to get it to the quality level that you need, which is over 95% quality and accuracy. You can sort of ignore the right-hand side. I've put some screenshots of our platform just to show what it could look like. But really, right, what do these agents do? All right, so these agents would start with ingestion analysis and the data quality analysis. When you receive the application for your insurance, that's the first thing they would do, right? So what are the type of questions they would answer? What documents did we receive? Have we received everything? Is there something missing? Because if it's missing, then the agents could automatically send a notification to the broker saying that you haven't sent this form or that form, or your KYC is incomplete, or whatever it is, right? So a lot of these kind of barriers in the process can be taken care of by the agents themselves, right? You don't have to wait for an underwriter to open the submission and go through it and then realize, oh, half of the stuff is not there, right? So that they can take care of, right? And do we have conflicting information? We talked about conflicts. If there is conflicting information, can I, which source should I use as the source of truth, right? Is it Form A or Form B, right? Or document C, or some external data source, right? Which I can go and pull data from and then use that as a source. So all these things are configurable, at least in our platform, where you can specify what we call as trust hierarchy of data. Right? You can say if the data is coming from these sources, you can trust it. Others, it's maybe not, right? So that's very important, right? And based on that, then the agentic system would determine whether we have received the information to now proceed with underwriting, right? So we have not even started underwriting right now. So this is the first step, right? Then we go into the exposure analysis. Now, this can be fairly complex. Let's say I'm a business with the offices across the country, right? Let's say in 10, 15 states. I have business, I have buildings, I have employees, I have vehicles, I have factories, right? I have equipment. Now, there are multiple varieties of insurance. I'll obviously have to insure all these assets. Then there's liability insurance for all these things. So it's a very, very multi-dimensional complex process if this were to be underwritten, right? And again, I'm talking about more on the commercial, mid-market to high-end type of underwriting. But that can be really complex. So here we would look at things like, for each of those types of subjects, right? Your subjects are basically your buildings or vehicles or your employees. What are the risk factors? What are the key risk factors for your business? For example, in a restaurant, the risk profile or the risk factors will be very different than a factory, right? Or a retail outlet, right? It will be very different. So you have to decide what are the risk factors, and you mostly already know, but you have to configure them and then start monitoring those risk factors, right? Size of risk, right? Do I have one building or do I have 10 buildings? If I have 10 buildings, the risk is much higher because you have a lot more things to insure, a lot more chances of things going wrong and claims coming in. So size of risk, right? And while you are doing this analysis, you may realize that there are certain risks exist. For example, a building does not have sprinklers, right? Office building does not have sprinklers. And in your underwriting guidelines, you have that we will not underwrite a building without sprinklers. So right there, you'll catch that, and the agent will say, this is a risky submission, and it is not adhering to our guideline. Now, the underwriter can override and still write it with some risk or some higher price for the premium, but at least it has brought about that risk very easily. And then essentially, I think most underwriters follow like a scoring system to come up with the final decision. So that scoring system can be embedded in a platform like ours, and it will take all these risk factors, give them weighting of importance, and then we will come with a weighted score to figure out, right? So some of those things are shown in the screenshots, but I think that's just for illustration. So that's the exposure. Now for the loss analysis, this is prior claims, right? The agents can actually look at our prior loss reports from different carriers. As you guys probably know, the loss reports can come in different shapes or forms, right? Some PDFs, some spreadsheets, sometimes, right? And different carriers have different formats. So consolidating that itself, although generative AI allows you to read unstructured documents, but getting that accurately out is very, very difficult, right? Across all those 20, 30 different types of reports. So that in itself is a complex task, and the agents will have to take multiple passes to extract that. Then you have to define what's the loss analysis you want to do. You want to look at special type of claims, right? For example, if it's an office building, have there been incidents around the elevator, or people have slipped, or something like that, right? Or if you're driving, if you have auto fleet of some type, drivers of certain types are always causing more accidents, or certain region are causing more accidents. These are the different types of analysis you want to do so that you can look at the history of claims, and that becomes a factor in your underwriting decision, right? So again, that is all defined by your underwriting guidelines and goes into the decision making, right? Lastly, right, so I have a couple minutes left, so I'll wrap up here. Lastly, right, the new technologies, the new AI, generative AI, agentic AI, it's very exciting, it's very promising, and it enables, like I said, a lot of new use cases, new ways of doing things. And I believe that in the coming 5 to 10 years, most software applications are going to be using, I would say all software applications are going to be using these technologies. So AI is not a thing in itself, it's a technology that everyone will have access to and will use. How you use it is going to be critical, right? But there are certain things when you use AI and will use AI that you have to look for, right? So human in the loop is very, very important, right? At the end of the day, AI will make mistakes, 100%, that's 100% sure that it will make mistakes. How much of mistakes it makes, it depends on how you build the system, how you monitor it, and so on, right? There has to be auditability and traceability, which means that every decision that AI takes, that the agent takes, has to be, you should be able to drill back into the history of that decision, the reasoning, the source of data that was used for that decisioning. And so these are things that the next generation platforms will need to build. We have it in our platform, these kind of capabilities, but these are the things that you need to build. And then, of course, monitoring and accuracy, right? So AI is not constant. You know, it's not that once you deploy it, it will continue to operate at the same performance forever. That never happens. So you have to consistently and continuously monitor the AI systems. There are ways to do it. It's a more in-depth discussion, which can be had some other time. But monitoring on a regular basis and making sure that the AI performance is not degrading is very, very important. And measuring the quality and accuracy so that your users can feel comfortable using the AI to make decisions is going to be important. So these are some of the things that one has to keep in mind. Yeah, I think I'm almost done. This is our team, and like I said, you know, over here, Anant from Skillmine and his team are going to support us. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sure.
Probably we can take like one quick question, if anybody has. Yeah, I think quickly there. Can we have the mic passed on?
Yeah.
I think we can, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the bias and ethical AI, these are topics that have been being discussed a lot. My answer to this is there is no generic, you know, there's no generic way to handle bias or ethics in AI. Your company has to define the policies and practices to handle that, because what could be biased for one company may not be biased for another company. I'll give you an example. So people say, oh, you should not have the, you know, the male or female sex indicator in your data because that will create a bias. But that may be true for certain types of industries and certain situations. But when it comes to, let's say, a medical type of AI, that may be very, very important. Or it could be based on, you know, your race or whatever, right? So bias is very contextual. And I would say your AI teams that are building and using these systems have to take care of defining what bias means to your company. I don't think there's a generic answer, and there shouldn't be, because, you know, every situation is different. How you use data for the benefit of people, it depends on that. So that would be my answer. It is really up to your company to define these things. And there is no, I mean, I've been doing this for like 15 years now, and the question about bias boils down to what data set you're going to use for which situation. Even within a company, you will have different types of data sets to train your models. One data set will be very different than the other data set. So it really depends on what you're trying to do with the data. That would be my thing. And your best practices in the company and regulations would sort of define that.
Wow, very well defined. Well, I think, can we have a huge round of applause for Peeyush Rai?
Thank you.
Peeyush, I'll request you to kindly be there, as I'll request and call upon Yatish Bhatia, VP Technology, ICICI Lombard General Insurance. Kindly join us on stage to felicitate Peeyush Rai, please. Requesting you to join us on center stage, please.
Thank you so much.
Can we have a huge round of applause? A very informative session out here.